Music is my drug of choice. I have a whole long history with music. I am obsessed with it. Every day I get to do musically driven initiatives, make music-based decisions. I have the coolest job ever. However, I am 9 years in, so there's a journey and a story to that whole piece. I graduated from Emory Law School. I served my time at Emory Law School, what I like to say. And so I served my time in Emory Law School. If you know anything about me, you know that I absolutely hate school. We're talking about elementary, preschool, kindergarten, middle school, high school, undergrad. I just never liked it because I am a creative soul, and who wants to sit in class and do math and learn about all the things that you learn about law school when you're a creative being. So anyway, I graduated. I did not have a plan. All I knew is that I wanted to be this music lawyer. No one was hiring me for the job that I came to law school for, and I knew that I wanted to do this when I was a teenager. I had no mentors, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had a vision, and I had I just had no doubt in my ability to make this happen. So you start the journey, and I learned so much along the way. So ultimately, I just wanted to be the resource for students like you all in the way that I really, really needed it. Even if it's just to spark an idea, if it's to help you think differently about the space, if it's to help you identify what you can do while you're in law school or undergrad, to help you all be further ahead than I was when I first got started. So that's a little bit about my background or the reason why this program exists. Every year I try to make it bigger and better. I am learning as I go, so if you all have any feedback, I definitely want to know what you all are interested in, because the program is for you. So I'm excited about going to the 6th year. I'm definitely excited to have these young ladies as my panelists. I have a history with the both of them, and what makes this panel very unique when we're talking about launching a career in the music space is that you have Dana. She's going to give you her background. She's a newly licensed lawyer, so she's fresh in. We're going to tackle what her expectations were as a student and what her expectations are now. We have Amy. Amy's, about 4 years into the music space. She's been practicing a little bit longer than that. So what does it look like at this point in your career? What are the challenges after law school? What are the challenges now? And for me, being 9 years in, I got a whole list of challenges, but I also have a whole list of really great things that I've been able to accomplish, and I definitely want to share that with you all. So we're going to start with Dana.
Okay, hi everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm really excited to be here because I've been full circle with FMA. When I started as a 1L, I interned with Evita, and I helped her put, these events together, do the RSVPs and things like that. So it's really exciting that this year I'm on the panel. So as Evita mentioned, I'm a new attorney. I got licensed on October 29, 2015. Yes. Exactly. And since then, I have been practicing entertainment and business law, which is what my plan was. But kind of just to backtrack to how I got here. I'm originally from New York, came down to Atlanta to go to Georgia State University. I always knew that I wanted to be an attorney. I always knew that I wanted to do entertainment law. At the time when I came from New York, Atlanta was the place to be for music, entertainment. The movie ATL came out, Walk It Out. And if you're from New York, New Yorkers only think about New York, but at that time when I graduated high school, it was Atlanta. So I came down to Georgia State because it was in the heart of Atlanta, and I studied marketing. And after I graduated from Georgia State University, I took a year off, worked in nonprofit, but I always knew that I wanted to go to law school, as I mentioned, to entertainment law. So I started at Emory. And while at Emory, I was so focused on entertainment. I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do, and I know some people, you guys are, probably not too sure of exactly what you want to do. You're kind of exploring different things. But honestly, for me, what worked for me is deciding early on so that every step that I took, every decision I made, every person I met, every book I read, every event I went to was for me to get here. And that worked for me. So that's what I did in law school. I was the secretary of sales, the vice president of entertainment of sales, and brought different events such as FMA here and worked with Evita, worked with a few other entertainment attorneys, tried some other things, knew that's not what I wanted to do, so I stuck to my gut. And here I am. I worked at a firm called Hooper & Honore my 3L year the entire time. I did a huge defamation case involving Love and Hip Hop and K. Michelle, and it was some fun stuff. I did some stuff for VH1, BET, MTV, some really, really fun stuff. So I started working with the firm when I graduated, and actually, today is my last day because I'm transitioning to opening my own law firm.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm really excited about it, and this has always been my plan. And just to start off, my advice is kind of figure out what your end goal is, and every decision that you make, just make sure you're making that decision for what your end goal is to be, and it's gonna come. So I'm testimony to that. So welcome, and thanks for being here.
Amy, tell us who you are.
Hey, good evening, everyone. How are you all? Good. Excellent. My name is Amy Arefo. I am originally from Raleigh, North Carolina. I moved to Atlanta a little over 4 years ago, and my story, and like Evita said, we all three have very different perspectives, but we have the same end goal. And my background is I was a trained dancer, so I danced for 16 years of my life. I like to tell this story. So as Evita spoke to, I very much have a creative side too. Absolutely, totally, utterly hated every day of law school. Sorry to tell you all that. But I walked in, I despised it because I literally, as I quote, felt like I was losing my creative juices every moment I walked in, because it was that creative side. I was an artist. Once an artist, always an artist. So high school, applied for, tried out some dance programs, thought it was a sign I didn't get in. Always knew I wanted to go to law school. But of course, as an artist, when you do things like dance and athletics, you have sort of a time frame. So I said, okay, I'll travel the world, dance, do that for 4 or 5 years. That didn't work out there. So law school was always something I knew I wanted to do. One would think you would fuse the two. I'd heard of entertainment law, never really knew what that consisted of. So after my 1L year, you all always be open to networking. You never know who you meet. I went to one of these like career fairs or something, and there's a publicist there. And she and I just started talking. Everybody was going to the obvious Capitol Records differently. I just started talking to her, and she said, I like you. I like your spirit. I have a friend, and she's in New York. Stay in touch with me. I can contact you. That happened to be A. Marie's little sister. And what she did is I built a relationship with her. She's like, oh, you only have 1 year of law school under your belt. We don't know, but I got a call back. They said, can you come to New York in 3 weeks? Guess what? I figured it out. And I went to New York for a summer after my 1L year. And it changed my life. So yes, there's sexy parts of entertainment, right? But it's work, but you have to have a love of it. I loved actually advocating and protecting these, the creatives, as we call them. And I went in there and was like, this is what I'm doing. However, story's a little different. As Dana said, after my 2L year, I went to work in-house for a software company. Thank God. And that was, okay, let me let you all know, I graduated from law school 2010, so the recession had occurred. So like literally offers were being rescinded. So I was working, they asked me to come back during my 3L year, then they offered me a job the day before Thanksgiving. And of course I accepted. It was an in-house position. It was amazing. But once again, it was not, oh my gosh, it's not that entertainment job I wanted. But I heard from my mentors at the time, they said, learn how to become an attorney. That will fall in place. So I did that. As in-house counsel, I was exposed as a multinational billion-dollar company. And I was a junior attorney, a fly on the wall in every aspect. And what I learned to do is be an attorney. And I stayed there for almost 2 years, left Raleigh, came to Atlanta, and when I came here, I said, I'm diving straight in to pursue my dreams, and I started my practice. So my focus, what I picked up, some of what I did in a legal counsel position, I deal with, Evita specifically deals with music, but I'm music, television, film, and then with a focus on IP, soft IP, copyrights and trademarks. So that is the gist of what I'm doing, and I'm excited to be here.
Yay! Thanks, all right, so I don't know, do we have any college students in here, or are we mostly dealing with Boston? So for college students, and college was just a few years for me, so so for college students, I know that there's a lot of concern about what should you be studying while you're in undergrad if you want to go to law school. For me, I went to University of Georgia. Let's go Dogs. Feel free to bark. Okay. And so I went to University of Georgia. Again, I knew that this is what I wanted to do, be a music lawyer. I started off as a philosophy major. One, because I'm deep. But then I found myself sitting in classes with people that were just a little too deep for me. We were sitting in class and, you would read something about Aristotle on like the 50th level, and it's like really interesting stuff. So you're sitting in class and you're talking, and then you hear classmates talk about it, and you're like, but that's not what I got from Aristotle. Oh my God, I'm going to fail in philosophy, because everybody's just pontificating about what Socrates and Aristotle said. It was just in the air. It was not practical. So I said no more. I became a communications major, and for those of you who think that communications is lightweight, it is not. I did lots of research on media literacy, human rights, mass atrocities, which is why I cannot watch the news, which is why I'm not big into politics. But I spent a lot of time speaking and writing and really digging into how people communicated in the psyche, which I definitely use now. So I did that, and for those of you who think that you have to be a political science and all of that stuff, listen, political science was not the class for me. I have a story for that too. It was the ultimate struggle. So if you think that you have to be a certain thing in order to go to law school or be accepted to law school, that is not the case. Pick something that you're interested in, do well. So you definitely want to be interested in it, so you can get good grades and at least have somewhat of a decent time in undergrad. And then join organizations, show that you have leadership skills. When it comes time to applying for law school, get to the law schools, meet the people that are in admissions, make your face known, and when you write your statements, be who you are. You have to show why you matter to that school. Not so much that you want to be there, they know that, but why you have to be there and how it benefits them. So that's just my 2 cents on undergrad. You guys have any advice on undergrad?
Yeah. So I know we're all in law school here, but as you prolong in law school, you will start to develop mentees and things like that. So it's always important to bring those behind you so you can share this information. So I started off as a political science major, and I thought that to go to law school, you have to do political science. And so I started off my first semester, and I was good at it, but I hated it. It was so boring. And I went to this panel for lawyers that they had at Georgia State, and all of them were marketing majors. And I was just interested by that. So right after the event, I went to registrar and changed to marketing. And that was honestly the best decision. Marketing is so important in every aspect, and it applies so much in law, entertainment law, getting clients, keeping clients, litigation, everything. You need to know how people are thinking without them even talking to you. Yeah. And that helps a lot with marketing. Just helps your brain to work differently than other people. Use every type of body language and just how they're speaking and how they're moving. What they need, their demographic, and kind of how to sell things to them. So that helps obviously with juries, helps with contracts when you're negotiating. It's just been so helpful. Your brain will, literally think differently. So if you ever get a mentee or someone that reaches out and they want to go to law school, definitely share that information with them.
Amy, what about you? What would you pull from undergrad that you think is helpful?
Like Evita said, follow your heart. Because I was a double major. I was a communication studies major and a cultural studies major. And
you were doing too much.
No, but let me tell you.
Too much.
Let me tell you the second major. It consisted of me creating the major, because I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and as the youngest of a big family, you are always someone's sibling, right? So I don't know if any of you are from a big family, so there's this sort of innate, struggle or need to be independent. So that for me, since I was yay high, has always been an issue. I'm not an issue, something that drove me. Was that a Freudian slip? So that has been something that drove me. So I did not let majors confine me as well. So I said, you know what, you don't have it, I want to create it. So what I did was I studied abroad in West Africa one summer, and I created an independent study project, and I became a cultural studies major. So that's just the story.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You did it.
I see what you did there. Okay, so now that we've touched on, undergrad, like I said, which was just a few years ago.
Yes. Yesterday.
Now let's talk about your experiences in law school. Did you know what you wanted to do, what you want to do after? What were your aside from that, what were your challenges just as a student? And just be honest.
Very, always.
Who wants to start?
I will. You can tell it's heavy on my heart. I would say nobody spoke about the transition when you go straight from undergrad to law school. It was hell for me. I don't know about anybody else. I got in there and was like, okay. And I never questioned decisions I made, but I literally, my first semester, 1L year, I don't quit anything, but I said, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Literally sitting in the second row. My seat was third row in, second row. I literally still remember what it was. And I said, okay, this is going to be the longest 3 years of my life. And I just remembered the end goal, like Dana said, means to an end. I wanted to be an attorney. I didn't like the process. So the classes, contracts, sounds weird, but I liked it because I always had an affinity for contracts. Torts were interested, hated property, hated Civ Pro, hated evidence, hated all those classes. I did not like it, but I found electives that I loved. So I took an entertainment law class. 2L year, when you get to start choosing more classes, I took an intellectual property class. I took an in-house counsel class. So I was able to have courses in there, which actually led to my first, my full-time employment. So that was when I was able to thrive. But taking those required classes, I was like, dear God, this is over. But we made it through, so.
And I was here at Emory, and it definitely was a struggle pursuing entertainment law. You kind of have to do it yourself, make it on your own. So there are two ways that you can approach law school. You can either, if you're not sure what you want to do, you can take a little bit of family law, a little bit of trademark, a little bit of copyright, a little bit of business, a little bit of trust and estates, real estate, whatever. Take a little bit of everything, so you know a little bit of something, just in case you get a job, wherever you get a job, right? Or, which is the way that I recommend, is you kind of decide early, and I finalized after my 1L summer, and that's when I added the business and entrepreneurship to my practice. So I finalized what I wanted to do, and every class that I took was for that. So I took the entertainment laws or the copyright trademark, and by the time I graduated, I felt confident in charging someone to be their lawyer. So that's my recommendation for how you guys, should kind of maneuver law school. That worked for me, and it just keeps you focused, because in law school, you can get pulled every which way. And it's kind of hard to, achieve something if everyone's telling you, do moot court, do mock trial, go to big firm, small firm, it's very hard because everyone's trying to give you advice. But if you know what you want to do, it'll help you stay focused and help you better manage your time and know which events are worth it, which books are worth reading, which classes are worth taking. And I'll give you a little story. It's about the struggle of trying to pursue entertainment or small firms and things like that. I read a book about a lawyer who started a practice right out of law school, and I connected with him on Twitter, and he wanted to come to the school. And so I contacted the administrators at the school. They told me they're not sure, how many students want to do entertainment or how many students wanted to do, solo practitioner. So I took a poll and got all my data, brought it to the administrators, and it just wasn't good enough. So it's kind of hard when you're trying to bring these opportunities to the students. So you really kind of have to do a lot of things on your own. So what I did was, if you have an iPhone, there's a podcast app. I listen to podcasts driving every day. There's entertainment podcasts, there's, small firm, there's everything that you need to know, copyrights, trademarks. So you really have to start teaching yourself a lot of things, because there's only a handful of classes, maybe copyright, trademark, entertainment law. That might be it. That's going to teach you anything about, pursuing music law, entertainment. So the podcasts are one. Webinars. I signed up for every webinar. I would sit in class sometimes, with headphones in the back, looking at the webinar about a different type of, entertainment law topic. So there's just a lot of different things that you have to do. You have to self-educate. You will not learn it all by just going to class. So definitely have to make it on your own if you want to pursue entertainment law, especially at a school that doesn't really have an entertainment law track. So that's my advice. You have to educate yourself outside of school. Take an hour or two a day, or maybe a few hours a week to educate yourself on entertainment law if this is what you really want to do.
Yes, I think that's you all have really great advice. My story, if you're not familiar with it, law school was a huge challenge for me. At the University of Georgia, I was an academic rock star. I graduated at the top of my class. I was the president of the Honor Society. I spoke at my department graduation. I was that kid. That was my thing, the smart kid. Then I got here, and I got my first semester grades back, and I was like, what the hell just happened? Because what I do know is that I studied hard, I went to class, I did what I was supposed to do, but I didn't get the results that reflected that I was doing the right things. And it was a huge blow to my ego. And of course my spirit, because I took a lot of pride in doing well, and I'd done so most of my academic life. So I had to figure out what and why I was here. But from an actual, starting law school, I lost my good vision within 2 weeks. I was in class, I couldn't see what my professor was writing. I was missing the street signs on the way home at night because I was just on a whole new level of being a student. I was probably overdoing it because I was scared, but now I wear glasses. So that was one thing I had, the first week I had migraines every day. I was calling my mother, just kind of in tears, and the crazy thing is that I was here in law school on purpose. So why was I questioning what was going on at that point? I walked into something I had no idea what I'd walked into, because what I saw was the music lawyer. I read a book when I was 17, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, which was written by a music lawyer. I said, this is what I'm gonna do, Mom and Dad, this is what we're doing. That's the vision I had. All the stuff in between, I had no idea. I was just going, okay, you gotta go to college. Did that, did it well. Gotta go to law school. What is happening? So I had to kind of find my, this is where we get into the Oprah moment. I had to find my voice. I had to find a healthy perspective. Because I'd been in school was my thing, I was kicking ass at it, I was now in a place where I could no longer define my life by going to school. And I know that sounds really, really weird, especially if you've had life. There's so much stuff in life beyond school. But for me, that's just what it was. So I thought, why am I here? What's important to me? What is my end goal? How do I need to be thinking about this? And it occurred to me that law school is a tool. It is not your final destination. It is a tool to get to your next step. When I began to look at it as a tool and not my life, my perspective became a bit more healthy, and I was able to, to get through. So with that being said, I went to school, maybe rebelled a little bit because I didn't get the grades I wanted first semester, but I finally got back on track. And they gave me a degree. So we're grateful for that. Who represented some of the talent on the label. And I said, hey, you need an intern? She says, I sure do. I went and I interned with her. She did not hire me, and I carried a chip on my shoulder for that for a second. But she's now a dear friend of mine, and I love her. So I graduated, and I had no job. I had no idea. And then I figured it out. But as far as the law school piece, law school is your tool for your next step. There are things that you can be doing on this level to prepare you. things that I did not do. Of course, I interned at the record label and I interned with the entertainment lawyer, which is important. But you gotta understand the space. If you wanna be a music lawyer, understanding the music space. Television, film, whatever it is that you wanna do as a lawyer, you have to know the space. While I may have struggled in law school, I knew music like the back of my hand. I've always known it. And I know it now, which makes me one of the best lawyers, not because I just do good work, but because I know the space. I know the people, I know the language, I know the culture, I know the creative side. I know music. I am music. And that is why I'm able to do my job the way that I do it. And I think because I know this space, because I am music, I like to think that's why people like to work with me. You can find good lawyers, but because I am music and I can identify and connect with music and my clients, I mean, that is something that you will not get in law school. So whatever space you want to be in, know it, learn it, be it, and you can do that right now as a student. And in addition to that, when you're meeting lawyers or if you're looking for opportunities, well, let me just kind of do a sidebar. As a law student, there may be a natural push for you to connect with music lawyers. Connect with people in the music space, period. Yes. Whether they're lawyers, talent, studios, management companies across the board, connect with those people and get to know them, become a part of this space. So when you do meet a music lawyer or potential opportunity, you don't just show up with, hey, I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, but I know all this stuff about the music space. I am it. I know the culture. Because you start dealing with lawyers who are super busy, we don't have time to do everything. We don't have time to, connect how we may have been a godsend. So know that there are things that you can do now as a student. Learn the space, and I know we're going to get into this. Understand that you are a brand as you sit in these chairs right now. Brand, we're going to have a whole panel about, being a brand as a music lawyer. But understand that right now, you are a brand, and your brand is the thing that makes you you, that is apparent in everything that you do. What social media, what does your social media look like? What you read, what you say, what organizations you're a part of, what organizations you support, the kind of music you listen to, how you talk, how you treat people, your brand. It is the thing that makes you you. Identify that now and build a platform for it. And then I'll get into kind of what my brand is, but these are things that you can do now as a student. Learn the space, identify your brand, and build a platform for it, and then connect it with people. So what would you say after law school, now that we've all survived, right?
Praise God.
Kind of the first several months for you, what does that look like? What does it, okay, we've passed the bar as well. What does that look, so you've graduated, you've passed the bar, you're a lawyer, what next? What happens next?
I think for me, the difference was now dealing with clients directly. So my story is that my 3L year, I worked for the same firm that I got hired after I graduated. So I was pretty much doing a lot of the same work, but instead of me just passing it through the partner, I was passing it directly to the client. So it was a lot more client interaction, which is something that you don't learn in law school. And I was learning a lot on my own as well. Especially small firms are really busy. They need all hands on deck, not really too much time to teach you how to do certain things. So you kind of have to learn on your own. So for certain contracts, I've done, record deals, producer agreements, management agreements from research, researching, seeing some, samples or some go-bys and seeing what other people have done and kind of putting my first draft together and sending it to the partner. And thank God, just based on some research and just common sense and, the marketing brain, it turned out really well most of the time. But I would say for me, the big difference is dealing directly with clients. And that's just something that's going to come with experience. You're not really going to learn that in law school. But I would say that was the biggest thing for my transition.
That takes several years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because listen, this is a huge thing. They aren't just clients.
Yes, Lord.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, y'all. They are people.
Yeah.
You have to know they are people.
Sensitive, creative,
Gentle souls.
They are.
Like,
They
gentle
are
souls.
my children.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean that in a way that like I care about their well-being. And how I see my clients. Again, because I have this thing with music, I believe that all of my clients carry these magical gifts that they are responsible to the world to deliver. And my role is to support them in a way that they can best deliver those gifts to the world. So I don't take my job lightly, but with that being said, I care for them. And not every lawyer cares. I have to care, but I can't take on everybody. So I'm very limited because I care so deeply. But when you can understand that your clients are people and not just their legal matters, it will absolutely enhance your value because you become a trusted source. I don't care what level your client is on, whether they have Grammys or they're just starting, they will not know what you know either, because it can be complicated stuff. So they are trusting you all of the time because you tell them, and they have no choice but to trust. Not to say they won't be like, give you a little fight every now and then, but they don't know. They do not know. We do this every day. So they trust. It is a very vulnerable thing. And you have to understand that about them as people. And another thing for me, not only do I care about them as people, I care about them being empowered with information. So I take the role of educating them as well. When you can educate to the extent that they're willing to be informed, that is going to create a significant value as well. So they are absolutely people that you do have to care for, that do need to be educated. But getting to know clients and people over time, it happens over time.
Yes.
And especially for artists, they are very passionate people, and they want to know that you are passionate about what they're passionate about. So it's more than just, I can do the work. They have to connect with you. It has to be some kind of rapport there. So, starting with creatives, don't start off, I wouldn't recommend starting off like strictly or from the beginning with business stuff. Get to know them, get to know how they got from where they are to where, from where they were to where they are now. Where do they want to go? Have them feeling like you care and do genuinely care. And if you don't genuinely care, then they might not be the client for you.
Exactly.
And they can sift through that. So that would be the difference for entertainment clients. It's just, passion, relationship based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably the case, I would think, no matter what industry you're in, just understanding the people behind the matter or the circumstances. But for me, whenever I take on a client, it always starts, when I'm thinking about taking on a client, it always starts with the story. What's your story? Because what I like to do is to share my story as well. I like for my clients to see me no different than them. I just know something else.
Yes.
They're the talent. I'm the legal eagle, and I'm creative, so I've got all of this stuff, but I'm not better than or higher than, because that's the perception that people have about what lawyers think of themselves. But in the music space, I don't really think that is something that we can, I don't think it's a healthy approach. It may work for some people, but if I can say, hey, I get you, I understand you, matter of fact, I'm not that much different than you, this is my story, this is my path. And then also communicating to my potential clients, tell me what your goal is, and I'm going to tell you what my goal is. My thing about clients is that if I feel like we are not going in the same direction, if I feel like you're pulling me away from my purpose and my vision in music, I can't work with you.
Yeah.
I can't work with you. So the client piece is very important.
I have a story about that too recently. So sometimes when you're at work, it's hard to turn off the professional mode. So one of the attorneys had a client, and I needed to fill in because the attorney was double booked. So the client's in the consultation, in the conference room, and I go in the conference room and I'm just so like tunnel vision, so professional, and I, have my contract or whatever it is, and I'm like, just really professional, and he just looks at me and starts laughing, right? And I'm like, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you're just so professional, and he just started laughing. So I'm like, what, this is not the right approach. So I just said, what's up? Where are you from? And we started talking about that. So we started talking about, where we're from, different things like that, and it kind of loosened up a lot, so that was a lesson for me, and it made me laugh at myself. Because, just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you have to be all stuffy and things like that. You can dress in polka dots and pink if you want to, but that doesn't mean that you're any less educated or know any less about music or entertainment law. So I learned that the hard way. It was a little bit embarrassing, but after we got over that first 2 minutes, we had a great rapport and a great meeting. So,
and I would say tap into your personal relationships. I have a very, very, very interesting story. A childhood friend of mine from Raleigh as well. We met in middle school, so what did that make you, 11 or 12? And one never knows who people would turn out to be. And I would vividly remember him making beats in middle school, and he did in high school, and he did in college. He was such a creative. The only reason he went to college was because he promised his parents. He didn't want to. It's good to have under his belt, but he wanted to go straight into creating. He's a producer. Fast forward, this guy, the same guy who's a current client of mine, used to be at my dance concerts because we were both creative together as we went to school. So he came to Atlanta first. I was still in Raleigh doing my in-house gig. Moved here. We reconnected, and he's worked with some notable names. And then timing. That's a lot of it. Timing. He had a different situation set up, team, and it just wasn't the time for us to work together. But we were talking because he would send me beats and different music and creations. Because this stuff, when we're speaking, you all say ministry. What we do, it literally is, because these artists are being woken up in their dreams with content that they have to, like, he would often call me and tell me at 3 a.m., this is the concept that came to my mind. And the beats were like, they live and eat, sleep, and breathe. But we were friends, so he would send me, it's not abnormal for him to send me, content and just ideas he had. So anyway, I was like, we were talking, and I said, why are we working together? He was like, absolutely, because the trust was there. The relationship was there. He knew I had his best interest at heart. If we never made a penny together, which we hadn't at the time, I am going to stick it straight with him. And now he's a client, but this is a childhood friend. So one never knows. Relationships are key. And it's just good to be kind to people. And we were both creatives, not knowing where, I would become an attorney in the entertainment space, and he's a producer. But now, such an easy client to deal with because we know each other at the core, to the core, and we can do business together. That's that just happens to be an advantage. So I can go into a deal and advocate for him, and 1,000%. I know his line in the sand. I know when to push him when he's gonna fold a little bit, because there's that underlying relationship there. So that's very important, and like they said, if you do not, please learn. If you do not, you have to ride for the talent. And trust your gut, because you would know. All that glitters is not gold, and all the money that comes with some people is not worth it. It's not. It is not. And you will quickly learn, and if it starts to feel, if you start to resent the situation, the matter, or even the client, leave, run. Tell them it's been nice, wrap up the matter as we're supposed to do, and keep it moving. But it's passion. You have to be passionate to work.
So let me ask you this. So after law school and coming into a lawyer, so we're going to fast forward because I know you spent some time, working in-house. So starting your practice in the entertainment space, the music space, what were your challenges?
Oh my gosh, everything. Because what they don't teach you in law school is how to be an entrepreneur. And you hear that a lot from those of us who went out, whether it's like Evita immediately after law school, or like me 2 years after law school. There is just, those are two completely different hats that nobody talks about. Me being an entrepreneur, me being an attorney are two different skill sets. It's all, we're talking about marketing, branding, just being creative on top, running a business, right? Admin, like there's so much. Knowing who you want to work with, your end goal, your vision, the financials, that's entrepreneurship. Did I say anything that consists of you being an attorney in that sentence? No. Okay, so there's so much of that. There were times when I was starting my practice that I was spending 90% of the time being an entrepreneur and 10% of the time being an attorney. Nobody talks about that. Because I came here, I had my older sister, my nephew, and I had one childhood friend that lived here. I didn't know anybody. So you start from the ground up. I didn't know anyone. So I started a practice, all excited. And you're like, clients, where are these clients magically coming from? Nobody talks to you about that. Like, where are they coming from? And you sit there and nobody talks about the struggle to build a book of business, to do whatever. But it is key to ask questions and reach out. That's how I met Evita. I kept on hearing her name. And you reach out, and everyone that knows me, what she would tell you is, ye have not because ye ask not. So I'm going to ask. The worst somebody can say is no.
Amy will ask.
Yeah.
Listen. I mean, I always joke with Amy because she has she's a thing about her where she's not afraid to ask. I mean, for me, and then we talked about this earlier, I'm not the most social person. My thing is, everything that I have a vision for, I believe I can get it done by myself. And the more that I'm doing, I realize I do need a team of people. But I spent my first years very much in a bubble. So Amy is right, you ask, and most likely you shall receive. And I think that it is a gift and a talent in and of itself that I am certainly working on. But I like that you talked about challenges with being an entrepreneur. And even for those of you who do not plan to start your own practice, I think that no matter where you go, you do have to have an entrepreneurial spirit. I think just within the markets of things, I think wherever you go, you should always be mindful of your individual business brand. Thinking of yourself as an entity of sorts as opposed to a worker. So I think that is very important. And I have, I've got all kinds of stories about the entrepreneurship piece. I had the vision, I have the creative soul, I am music, all that other stuff. Wow. Yeah. Where's the money?
Yeah.
I'm working. I'm showing up at my office every day. Where's the check? Yeah. Do not tell me it's in the mail. Yeah. I don't want to hear that. I want a direct deposit. Absolutely. I want you to come by the office. There's, oh my God, I spent a lot of time with those challenges earlier on. What are some, and let me say this, when I first started my practice, straight out of law school, I moved straight into my parents' house. I lived with my parents for 3 years. I'm grateful to have had them and to still have them to support me now, not financially, but just kind of be my cheering squad when things get tough and I'm overwhelmed and overworked. But I moved in with my parents. My parents were cooking dinner, so I had lunch and dinner the next day. I had a car. I always talk about this car. I had a car that was literally falling apart. The story is my car was very cool in college. By the time I finished law school and started practicing, not so much. I mean, it was barely surviving. My dad was like, you have to buy a new car. I don't know if your car is gonna make it back home. I don't like that. My thing is, I'm gonna be fine. If I can't buy the car that I want to buy, then I'm not gonna get it. Anyway, you move out of your parents' house, you get your own place, you get a new car, that works out. But then you go out and you're like, God, I hope I don't have to go back home. Now that I've moved out, I hope I don't have to go back home. And very much like the car, I don't want to move out unless I could, get something that I actually wanted to live in. So anyway, so that works out, and a year passes, and another year, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't have to move back home, and your parents are proud. My dad is still trying to figure out exactly what I do, but he's happy nonetheless. So you build with clients, you learn a lot about yourself. You find out that the music space is a very, very, very tough space. For the lawyers as well. But my whole thing, don't forget about the music. If music law is what you want to do, stay centered on the music, which is the gift, which is the magic and the spirit of it all. Because I think once you start disconnecting with that, there's just a lot of stuff that I think to be unnecessary. It's just a tough business. It's just a really, really tough business to be in. But I absolutely love what I do. I've got war stories after war stories after war stories. But then I've got the amazing blessing of the successes of, you know, having my practice for 9 years, not having to move back home. I work with some really amazing talent that I feel honored to work with. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the world's largest brands, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, Toyota. I've just finished up a Calvin Klein endorsement deal for a client. I mean, it's just really, really cool stuff. I'm excited, and I almost can't believe it sometimes. So now it's just a matter of growing it out, making sure I have an impact in the music space. So that is a little bit about us launching our careers in the music space. Are there any questions that you all have? Yes, ma'am.
How were you able to build your books, and who did you reach out to at the beginning?
How are you to, okay, so for me, let's see, there is not one thing that I did. I just did a lot of everything. When I graduated from law school, at that time, MySpace was like a big deal, if you can remember. And the thing about MySpace, and also the thing about a lot of social media, is that there's a huge music audience. Whether people want to be creatives or whether they like music, music is just a really big thing. So I began to build my brand as this music warrior. Sometimes you gotta be your own hype and just hope you can figure it out, right? So I put myself on MySpace and I was like, okay, I'm music warrior. And creatives were attracted to that because at that point it's like, what does a music warrior even look like? What do you even do? And I connected with a lot of up and coming talent. So, you know, and I always tell this story. You know, when I graduated from law school, I thought that Puff and Jay-Z and Pharrell and Quincy Jones and Clive Davis was gonna ring in my phone because I wanted it so badly, right? I wanted it so badly, I just felt it in my bones. And that's not what happened. That's not what happened. So I found that I had to connect with the up and coming talent. The record label that I interned for my 3rd year in law school, they would send stuff my way, you know, small stuff, but it was just kind of building with talent. And you have to build with talent that's coming up because that's how you learn. You know, had I gotten a Jay-Z, it would have worked out, but I, you know, it would have worked out. It would have worked out. I would have figured it out. But you know, there's so much that I had to learn. And then, you know, again, in my Oprah space, things worked out the way that they did so that I could be here and do this program and to have this story. You know, which I think it's like, okay, I get it. You know, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't be excited about it. But, you know, to be able to share it and say, these are some things that you all can do differently. And then as far as like the client that opened the door for me, it was a random thing. I got this random invitation to go to a city luncheon. I don't know how or why I got it, but I was hungry. So I went and I sat there, and it was like a really nice restaurant. I was excited. And there was this woman at the table who said that there was a guy who worked in her accounting department at a major kind of like a film studio, local film studio, who was managing this new artist. I was like, okay, sure. So the guy ended up calling me, and it was a young rapper, and I heard his music. I was like, oh my God, this kid is amazing. And he had this whole legal situation that was happening that we certainly did not anticipate, but I ended up getting him out of a bad deal. And talk about figuring things out, right? I channeled all of my law school briefings, just skills. I don't know, but we did it. And did that, and he went away for about a year or so, and then he came back later and was like, hey, you got me out of this deal. I got a recording contract from Def Jam. I don't really know what to do with it. I said, sure, let's do it. And it was, if you're familiar with Big Crit, it was Big Crit. And it was that guy. And that was it. That was in 2008, 2009. And you know, we've been together since then. And it really opened up the door for me as far as doing things on a larger scale, getting a hold of the major recording deals. He then did a publishing deal with Universal, his endorsement deals, and then getting talent in from that. People say, oh, you represent him, you must be capable. It's like, well, I was actually awesome before, but okay. and then the work starts coming, and then for me, earlier on, identifying that I had to be a brand. I had to be a brand. Outside of just this work, I had to be a brand. I had to be visible, and with social media now, there really is no excuse, so that people can see it. So that's kind of my story of building my books.
And you know what, Evita touched on branding, and we kind of didn't, you know, we're doing questions, but I feel like it's so important. It meant so much to who I am now. When I was in law school, my goal was to be known for entertainment law. It's a struggle sometimes as a law student, especially pursuing entertainment law, because there's so many students that want to do it. So these attorneys, all they hear is that students want to do entertainment law. But it's like, why do you want to do it? You know, what makes you special? Are you serious about it? Are you just saying it now because it looks fun? Are you going to drop it later? So what is really important is that these attorneys that you want to network with, or who you want to become your mentor, they know that you're serious about it. So what I did was I started with my online branding. So it's really important to be consistent. So anything that you found online with me, it said entertainment law. My LinkedIn was as much entertainment as I possibly could. My Twitter, I tweeted entertainment articles, and my little description was entertainment law student. It was just entertainment everywhere. I was really involved with FMA. So if you Googled my name, you saw entertainment law everywhere, whatever might have come up. I started a blog so that I could even start writing more stuff, you know, about it. So it's really important that when you meet someone in the entertainment space, and then they Google you later or look for you later, they see something about entertainment. You know, if they don't see you at all, that's bad. You know, if they see that you're interested in other things, that's not necessarily bad. That's a good thing, but you know, it's not really going to make them, you know, think twice about hiring you, you know, as an attorney. So your online brand is so important. When I was a 2L and a 3L, people already thought that I was an entertainment lawyer. Like, I was getting referrals. I'm like, I'm still a student, you know? So I can't stress enough how important that is. Get your business card. It's like $10 on Vistaprint. I went and created a little logo. I had like the legal balance symbols, and I put a little entertainment mask, and I put a little music symbol in each of the balances, and people like that stuff, you know? So I made it entertainment. So if this is what you want to do, fix up your online brand. If someone's looking for you, make sure they see entertainment, they see that you're serious about it. Because now when I'm starting my firm, I'm, you know, thank the Lord, I have, you know, a handful of clients. I haven't even like, you know, announced it yet, but it's because I've been building this brand since a 1L, you know. So it's really important. Start with that online brand, and, you know, when you become a lawyer, it'll really benefit you.
Another question?
Can you guys talk a little bit more about like the substantive work behind entertainment and music stuff? Because so I was a professional dancer before coming here, and I lived in LA and did all this creative side, fun side. And I was meeting with attorneys once I saw that I got into law school out there who were doing entertainment law, like big people at Universal and, you know, major companies. And honestly, it seemed like their work was not that sexy. Like, it wasn't, you know, it's like that. I love that industry, but then they were basically redlining contracts. Sky had a stack of paperwork up to his eyeballs, and he had, you know, like all the movie undergrad. I had actually interned in the music and media licensing department at Viacom in New York. So I was involved with like Nickelodeon and TV and getting songs into their shows. And honestly, like, it was so dry. I mean, I was getting emails from cool people at Marvel and stuff, and they were like, oh, like, you know, Jonas Brothers, and we're gonna get this song in there. But then all I'm doing is reading, looking for, like, you know, something. Does the license work? Sync license? I was like, this is not fun at all. Like, this is. So is that what it's really like?
Yeah, I absolutely.
That's a good question. I have like a twisted perspective now.
I think that is an awesome question, because you're spot on. And I hope it doesn't disappoint anyone. Yeah. And the reason why you're spot on is because ultimately we are responsible for shaping the deals. So you talk about the substantive stuff, you know, what we're working on, recording deals, publishing deals, endorsement deals, appearances, touring. It is paperwork, and then it's like a 72-page agreement. Why is it 72 pages? I don't know, but it is, right? And so you're right, it's a lot of paperwork. And it can, you know, 9 years in, you've seen one management agreement, you've seen them all. You've seen one major recording deal, you've seen them all. Publishing, you know what it is, blah, blah. So for me, that is not the sexy part. I spend a lot of time doing those things, but for me, and perhaps because I have my own firm, I can't really speak to what lawyers are able to do when they work for someone else. But because I have direct interaction with the Big Crit or Joey Badass or another client, I am talking about who they are, their music, their brand, their visions, their wants, their desires. So now when I'm doing a deal with a Calvin Klein, I get to say, no, this is not what my client wants. This is not the client's vision. Or when I get an endorsement deal from a Toyota, I might say, this is not good for this client, or this client is willing to work with Toyota, but this has to be the messaging. This has to be the brand positioning. You know, this has to be what it looks like and what it feels like. You know, those types of things are the things. Being able to plan and strategize with the clients. That is the sexy part. So ultimately, I'm functioning as a lawyer and then some. It allows for me to be creative. If I was just paperwork, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I think that is phenomenal insight that you have and that you were able to pick up on. And you saw the non-sexy. The conversation can be sexy. Oh, we've got all this stuff going on, but the work is it is the paperwork, which is very, very important. The paperwork is very important. But for me, because I have my own practice, because I am so involved with the client and the client brand, that's where the sexiness is, the fun is, and then I'm able to take that and make sure that it's reflected in the deals that we do.
Absolutely, and also remembering why you're in this space. For me, I like that. That is my prerequisite. Like, so I'll give you an example. And building towards this, it didn't start like this for me. There is a client I work with that I am, which you, like we talked, you give a lot of yourself because of these gentle souls that we talk about. But there is one client, like, I'm very hands-on. As far as, I mean, literally, I was the first person on her team, and I'm helping her build her team. So when I say I brought the manager on board, like more hands-on and more proactive than some attorneys will choose to be. But every time I talk to her, whether it's a personal or business conversation, I remember why. I remember why I'm working with her. So it's remembering why. And I was in the studio with her last week. And I was just doing my lawyer stuff. I had my laptop because we still have to do the paperwork. So I'm doing something else unrelated to her. But she's creating. She's literally creating. You know, I brought her in the studio with a producer. And she's creating. And they're the creators. Do your thing. I'm just there for moral support. But after all, I still do have to do the work. So I'm doing some other work on the side and just watching the process for 4 hours. That reminds me why I'm doing this. Because when she got in that studio, and I remember I've known her for 2 years, and to see her to this point and knowing where she's going, that's it. If I never make a cent, that's it.
And also, like, we all do mostly transactions, but there's still, you know, you can do litigation in it also. So if you like, you know, the action of litigation, I know Evita's like so anti. And honestly, I thought I was too. I thought I was staying away from court. I hate, you know, the feeling of being nervous, and I felt like I would be good at it, but I just wanted to focus on transactions. But there is still opportunity to litigate in the entertainment space. It's really hard to find an entertainment lawyer that litigates.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
It really is. So if that's something that you want to explore, that's definitely there. It works a different side of your brain, but if that's something that you want to do, you kind of want to keep it, you know, spicy, you can try some litigation work, you know, move into maybe a little bit of defamation. That's still working with entertainers. It's not necessarily music law, but there's media law that's closely related. So kind of explore different things and different ways that you can branch out of just being in front of paperwork and contracts every day.
Yeah, so. and then to certainly add on to that, you know, if you know that you absolutely cannot stomach that paperwork, do not do this.
No, seriously.
But if you know that you can do that, and also tap into the things that really feed you creatively. Do that. I recently wrote a book. And it's called Don't Forget About the Music. It is a workbook, and it is, I pulled it together based off of what I've learned over the years in my position as a advisor, consultant, teacher. And I've been writing my whole life. I never thought that I'd write a book. It was never even on my to-do list. But looking back at it, my parents still have all of the essays and things that I've won from being a writer. So if the music is calling you, or the entertainment, perhaps being the music lawyer is a way into the other things that feed you as well. But you got to do the lawyer part first, and you got to do that well to be able to open up other doors. So now I can say I'm a music lawyer, I'm a consultant, I'm an advisor, I'm a teacher, I've got this program, I've written a book, blah, blah, blah. These are things that feed me creatively. So, or you could litigate. My whole thing about litigation, I mean, you do need litigators. You know, when there's litigation, there's conflict. I don't like conflict, which sounds strange. I like creativity, you know, which is why I choose not to do that, even though I deal with conflict a lot of the time. I just don't want to be in the courtroom dealing with it. But
Price got to be right.
Understand the space and what's available to you. Understand what the needs are in the space, and perhaps you are the answer to it. Maybe what you want doesn't even exist yet, but you can create it. Yes. So just take a look at it from a broad, and so what you do know is that if you pursue the route of being a music lawyer, what you know is that you have no desire to be the paperwork person for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I feel the same way. I would die if that was me. But you have to do that and know it well, because within that paperwork are core concepts that the music industry is completely dependent upon. Copyright, trademark, personality rights, and all of those things.
Definitely. And I would say be open to other opportunities, because I have an interesting story where I don't write as much, but I write for the Huffington Post. And that's just something really, I mean, I've always been a writer, went to law school, did that, check. But I never saw myself in that post, like blogging. But I went to a conference and Ariana Huffington was there and she was speaking, and like I said, it's just in my personality to say, you know, she gave out her email address to like 1,500 people. And I just was like, is this happening? Scribble. And I shot her an email when I got back to Atlanta and said, you know, because she was speaking about balance and just being a woman and the space and how we sort of don't know how to turn it off. And she had a tragic situation that happened, and she physically hurt herself, and that was what caused her to slow down. So she was literally like gutting herself out and sharing this to a room full of 1,500 women. So I was like, I love this, because I love transparency. I don't like for people to doctor things up and say, well, this journey's been amazing, because it's not all the time. You know, it's just not. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a very real person. I want you to shoot straight with me, tell me the good and the bad. So I like when people do that. It's refreshing. So I shot her an email, told her literally a little bit about myself, but what I like about her, she responded back in a few hours. I'm like, Ariana Huffington?
That's crazy.
Yeah, and she emails me back and says, thank you, young lady. You know, I appreciate hearing your story. Would you like to blog for the Huffington Post? This is Ariana Huffington. And I'm like, did that just happen? I'm like, and once again, did I ever think, never crossed my mind. But I would be a fool to not use that platform and that vehicle. So I did that. Have the choice to still do it. Just, you know, there are other tugs and pulls and growing to practice, so haven't been able to do it as much, but nobody can take that away from me. I've done the HuffPost Live, I did the contribution. That can open doors, and that's a conversation piece, believe it. When I talk to people now, it's, or they go online, or they see some of my articles and say, oh, you're a writer for the Huffington Post? Vehicles, you all use them, create them, and that's, I'm an attorney. I didn't think, not that you can't blog, but in that space. So it's just, I would always say, because I'm an advocate, be open. One never knows. It's not always, nothing about my life is linear, so I'm open to things like that. It's never been and never will be for me. I don't know anybody else's story. So because of that, when things come and like knocks me in my head, walk into the door.
All right. We're going to take 2 more questions if we have them. Yes.
So I know that you got started, I mean, well, you did get started, but you did help Big Crit get started. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Ask, like, how often is it that you guys get to find your own artists or like people to work with as far as that goes? Because I'm always on the internet, on SoundCloud, looking for new artists, and
Yeah.
it's really great to see people coming up, especially these days. And so that's the first question. How often do you guys get to do that? And how often is it that they stay with you and you become part of their team and help them grow? And how does that feel?
Wow. Well, I can certainly tell you from kind of start to where I am now, there will not be a challenge in finding clients. There will be a challenge in finding paying clients.
Yes.
Right?
Talk about that.
Because there's a lot of talent out there that absolutely need your expertise, and certainly would not stop you from offering it, right? But then you have to make a living. So that's kind of where the struggle is. But to really learn and grow with people, you have to figure that out. What I can say, I did twice on 2 occasions. I did a contracting job for just a couple of weeks, but I really